Welcome along to the Soda Room.
It's that spine-tingling moment where you're actually numb.
It was like we had won the grand final.
Still, for me, that is the most incredible experience of my life.
You got the same undies on.
I've got exactly the same ones on.
On today's show, Darren Reeves, cricketer turned super successful footy coach. He won a premiership with Reeva in the Barossa, 2 SANFL flags with Glenelg, and is a newly appointed assistant coach at AFL level with Port Adelaide, responsible for looking after the Powers forward line. Well, Darren Reeves, welcome along, mate. I've been so excited to get you here because your story needs to be told.
Oh, mate, appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here. I was humbled when you gave me a call the other day and suggested we get together and do this, so excited.
Now, Reeva, this is a remarkable story because in a way it feels like you're breaking ground, and I think there are many, many people that are going to listen to this and turn around and go, you know what, if Darren Reeves can make a plan and follow it through and execute it, it gives me great inspiration. So that's what I want to do. But first of all, let's go back because you obviously just been appointed as a coach with the Port Adelaide Footy Club. But you didn't come from a footy background, you come from a cricket background. So as a youngster, was it always cricket?
Yeah, it was. I grew up in Blackheath in the Blue Mountains, New South Wales, and I played a little bit of soccer as a youngster, a little bit of rugby league, but I had an uncle that used to come around to my place every afternoon and we used to play cricket in the backyard. We had a good big backyard. Mum and Dad had sort of provided pretty well for us as young kids, and had a Kelpie that used to chase the ball for us and bring it back to us. So
you had a fielder?
Yeah, we had a fielder. And that was every afternoon, and cricket just became a love. And as a young man or a young boy, I dreamt of playing cricket for Australia and chased that dream for as long as I possibly could. We didn't get there, obviously, but that was the early part of my childhood.
Right, so when you're chasing that dream, how old were you when you knew you were going, right, I want to play for Australia, or you'd set that sort of goal in your head?
From memory, 8, 9, 10 years old, that was probably the dream. And then I started to play the local club cricket and was doing okay and having some success, and it sort of progressed pretty quickly from that point on through to sort of under 14s and 16s and playing some state underage stuff. And so it was a really quick progression, but it was always what I wanted to do.
So you played, what, 17s, 19s and 21s for New South Wales?
I did, yep.
Give us a little description as Darren Reeves, the cricketer.
Probably lacked serious talent, but just hard working. And I think that's probably been a little bit in my journey since, to be honest. So I was someone that would be out the back, catching the ball off the wall, hitting a ball in a sock. That was me. I just needed to hit balls or catch balls, so I was a batsman, wicket keeper. Not always a wicket keeper as a young fella. Sort of fell into that a little bit later in my later teens. But it was just, I didn't probably have the natural talent of others, so I had to work incredibly hard, and that's what I did.
So where did that work ethic come from?
I think Dad, to be honest. So Dad, not from a sporting sense, but Dad worked in the coal mines, which was a tough gig, underground in the coal mines, and he just worked incredibly hard. If he wasn't working in the coal mines, he was at home working around the yard and doing the stuff around the yard, and I think his work ethic and his the way he went about it was probably the thing that inspired me.
Was when you're saying the coal mine straight away, I'm picturing someone coming home from work with all the black crap all over their face and their clothes. Was it like that?
That was, exactly like that. He worked in the coal mines for 25 years, and that was that. You know, he'd work ridiculous hours. He'd do night shift, afternoon shift, day shifts, whatever it was, but he'd come home looking like that, and that was the inspiration, I think.
Yeah, amazing stuff. What about Mum? What did Mum teach you?
Our mum's just a really humbled lady. She was just there for us all the time, and she was that support network, and she was highly strung, but she provided great energy for myself and my sister, and just a great support network. And again, she was a hard worker as well. Mum was a nurse for the majority of her life, and then worked in a pharmacy in the local pharmacy in Blackheath for up until probably 12 months ago when they decided to move to Adelaide. She still worked in the pharmacy.
Oh, so they're here now?
Yeah, they are. They so the whole family had sort of moved on from the Blue Mountains over the last few years. My sister's in country New South Wales, and her children moved away. Mum's sort of family had moved away or passed away, and they were sort of there by themselves. And so just a little bit of convincing from myself and my wife to convince them to come to Adelaide, and about 12 months ago they made the move, which is great. It's great for us as a family to have them here, and for us to be able to look after them a little bit later in life.
They love it?
They love it, mate. Yeah, they've got a really nice place out at Anglevale, and with a bit of property and so a bit of area for Dad to do his work and potter around, do what he does. So they love it. It's just great for us to have him here, mate.
So obviously cricket, the hard work must have paid off, because if you're representing New South Wales, you're the biggest cricket state as we know, because you play for New South Wales, you play for Australia, isn't that how it always worked?
Yeah, but sort of has been.
You must have been pretty, even though you're quite humble, probably like your mum there, and say that you weren't talented, you're playing for the biggest state and the biggest cricket state without doubt at rep level all the way through. So you must have been pretty handy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything, if you're having some success and continued success, the opportunities sort of follow. And the New South Wales system is probably a bit different everywhere else because there is so many people in the state. So there was essentially a New South Wales country team and a New South Wales metropolitan team, and the early part of it was in the country team because I lived in a country zone. And then you sort of progress through that, and then it was make a decision. You can stick around in the country and play, or you can go to the city and play. And my initial move was to go and play for Manly, which was the furthest club away from where we live, but they were the club that made contact, and we went and played some under-16 cricket and then into a bit of senior stuff at Manly, and then that was just too hard still at school. So the decision was made to head to the Penrith Cricket Club, which was a lot closer to home, and sort of year 11 and 12 I played cricket there, and then as soon as school was finished, essentially moved to Sydney and lived in Penrith and played for the Penrith Cricket Club.
I want you to describe to me, Reeva, the best knock that you've ever had, right, when you're batting across wherever it was, whether it was rep level, your district or your Premier League level. What was the best knock you've ever had?
So I was lucky enough to go to the AIS Cricket Academy under Rod Marsh in 97. So I spent the year there, and at the end of that year we toured India and Sri Lanka. And our first game in India was in Chennai at the Madras Cricket Club and their test venue there. And I think it was the Madras Cricket Club's 100-year anniversary. So they put together this team of players from all around the world that were in India at the time, and some international players that were playing for India and South Africa and England at the time. And so a young academy team played a 50-over game against them.
Right, and who was in their lineup?
Lance Klusner, Javagol Srinath, VVS Laxman, a young VVS Laxman.
Wow.
So it was full of international players. And we played pretty well that day. And I think I came in about the 30th over mark, and it was just one of those days where everything went well. And I think I finished 60-odd not out off about 30-odd balls. And while it wasn't the big long innings, it was the one I remember most because the stadium was full. So the game, over the course of the game, the stadium had just filled up with local Indians that were cricket crazy.
How many, reckon?
50,000. It was quite phenomenal. I've still got the photos at home that just every now and then you look at it just blows your mind that you were a part of that sort of occasion. So it was incredible.
Did you guys win?
No, it's interesting. I think we made just on 300. And Lance Klusner, who was an incredible striker of the ball, he made about 140 in no time. And they got it with about 15 overs to spare. So, But it was just an incredible experience.
What a great situation. You're in a test venue in the cricket mad place in the world, 50,000 people, and you're smacking around test level international cricketers.
Yeah, it was a great experience and something that you never forget, and a real highlight of the cricket journey for sure.
That is brilliant. Who was playing in the academy alongside you at that time?
From an international standpoint, Nathan Bracken was playing, David Hussey. They're probably the two that sort of went on and played a fair bit of international cricket. Lee Castledine, who's sort of gone on a bit more in the media space nowadays, but they were probably the three more prominent guys that were part of that group. Shannon Tubb, some of those guys. But it was sort of at the end of the era for the Cricket Academy where for a long period of time guys would come in and then walk out and play state cricket pretty quickly, but it sort of had reached its time where it was really difficult to do that. And it was a great experience though.
When you made your 50, because you're 60 odd or whatever, the bat went straight up?
I think from memory, but I remember it being incredibly hot. Like you talk about heat and humidity in different parts of the world. That was as humid and as taxing as I can ever remember playing a sporting event in. So I think I was just struggling for breath, to be honest. So
you didn't kiss the blade or anything?
Nah, that probably wasn't me. I was a bit more subdued than those celebrations.
It must have given you enormous confidence though, and some real belief. You could do it because we're not just talking about the quality of the opponents, but the venue, the whole setup, the environment that you're in.
Yeah, it certainly did. I Hindsight, like you look back now, I wish I had the mindset that I've got now through my cricket journey. I feel like, and I talk to my boys about this at different times, and it's such a mental sport, cricket, and that was probably the thing that let me down from that point on. I probably never really reached the levels that I aspired to reach, and I look back, and a lot of that wasn't the work rate. I continued to work incredibly hard, but I just feel like I didn't have the mindset needed to succeed, and that's probably one little regret over the time.
Was it doubt? I think self-confidence? What was it? What was it now that, like, what if you could put your head now onto that shoulders, what would you be able to do perhaps that you didn't do back then?
I think the self-doubt a little bit, but also just feeling like you needed to make 100 every time you went out to bat, and you lost your way in how to build an innings or how to work your way through those moments, and suddenly you're out and you're frustrated, and that's continued to build and build and build. But certainly that was a big challenge for me looking back.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, now when you look at it and you think probably not a regret, I wouldn't imagine, because you don't know that.
No.
But I think people that exceed amazingly well at young ages, they have this wise knowledge and belief.
Yeah.
But it's rare at those younger ages.
It is, absolutely. And that's something I probably use a lot in my own coaching now, and in a different sport, obviously, but the mindset and the mental part of it is still very similar. So I certainly try to tap into young players' minds in and around that stuff, and probably from my own experiences over the journey and some of the things that I might not have got right at that time, that's for sure.
Then you spent some time with the Redbacks in the Saka squad. How did that come about?
So at the end of the year at the cricket, I'd met my wife while I was in Adelaide.
That worked out well?
It did.
Yeah. Where did you meet?
We're all good relationship start, mate. Joplins.
Joppies?
At the old Joplins, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we did. So
right. Did you notice her first? She noticed you?
I think a bit of both, and it sort of happened over a couple of weeks, or we sort of bumped into each other a few times, and then I think at the end of one night we sort of exchanged numbers and caught up a few times from then, and we've sort of been inseparable since, to be honest. Like, we've been together since. And so I moved back to Sydney at the end of that scholarship year, and she came, but it was a really big decision for her. She'd sort of left her support network and family and moved to somewhere where she didn't know, and with someone that she probably hadn't spent a lot of time with. So that was big for her, and it was great. We rented a place in Penrith, and it was great for our relationship, I think. But I because I'd grown up in the country, New South Wales, I wasn't a big fan of the lifestyle in Sydney and the hustle and bustle. So Adelaide fitted really well, and so the opportunity came at the end of the following year to come back to Adelaide and play cricket. So I came back to West Torrens and started my cricket journey over here at West Torrens, and had some success that year, and sort of got added to the state squad and spent a couple of years in the state squad under Greg Chappell, which was great.
Do you know that you are in a very rare situation, you and your wife, because most relationships that start at jobbies never go beyond a night or two?
That's correct. Yeah, so we're probably in a real minority, I would have thought. So no, she's been amazing for my journey, particularly the last sort of 20 years, that's for sure.
She obviously saw something in you to take the punt, because how long had you known each other and sort of been together before she decided to move?
Probably 3 or 4 months, and part of that I was travelling overseas to India and Sri Lanka and travelling around Australia playing cricket, so I wasn't spending a lot of time. But Rod was amazing in one for me as a person, but I think he recognised in between those trips around playing around Australia, most players would go back to their home state for a few days. I think he recognised that I'd had a partner here, and he always allowed me to come back to Adelaide to be able to spend some time with her, which was great, because it enhanced our relationship for sure. How
good is obviously her intuition to make that call? And obviously still together now and going really well, but that worked out beautifully.
It did, yeah. I think, and mum being mum, the first time she came to Adelaide that year, and first time she met Linda, she knew it straight away. She said to me right from the start, "I think you found the one for you." She's been fantastic.
Now, you just said something a little scary before we got on air.
I did.
That I've met your wife before.
You have, yep.
And don't worry, it's not a bad story.
No, not a bad story. You were one of her teachers at the old Nailsworth High School in your young years.
Good Lord. Poor thing.
But she does speak highly of you, though, so that's a positive.
If she's turned out, that is quite remarkable. A great love story, though, which is fantastic. So you played some second 11
I did.
At the Redbacks. How did things pan out as you navigated your way through that?
I had some success in the grade circles here and played some really good second 11 cricket. But being a wicketkeeper, you're just sort of you're the only one in a team. And through that period, South Australia had some good wicketkeepers in Graham Manu, who was obviously one of the better ones that the States had for a long period of time. And he never really let them down. So, and to be fair, I probably didn't perform as well as I needed to at different times when maybe he wasn't going as well as he could. And so I never really gave myself the opportunity, and I kept working. And that's the one thing I walked away from the cricket game, knowing that I left no stone unturned. I kept right until the end. I continued to work really hard, and once the family started and other things sort of took priority, it became a bit harder, and I probably walked away from playing cricket at sort of 28, 29, and then sort of footy started to take over.
No regrets, though, at all in cricket?
No regrets, mate. No, I look back now and I gave it everything I possibly had, outside of the mindset stuff and a bit of self-doubt. I know that I gave it everything I had, and I'm okay that I wasn't good enough, so that's okay.
Right, so then you make a decision, and this is the bit that I find amazing because of where you are. And given now you've got that job at Port Adelaide, and a lot of people, particularly AFL level and football people, are going to start to discover you, even though you've done some great things with Glenelg, you're going to think, gee, this is a meteoric rise. There's a long story behind it, isn't it? It's taken 20 years to be an overnight success if you looked at it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of at that point in my life, I was sort of playing a little bit of amateur football at the Salisbury Football Club with my brother-in-law and some guys I was working with and some mates, and the great Eddie Hocking, the former Crows, the Scud, he was our coach at Salisbury, and I think we'd won a premiership in 2007 and had some good times, and I think the following pre-season, I think the reserves or the B grade coach had quit, and he sort of suggested to me, I reckon you'd be a good coach. Do you want to have a crack at coaching the reserves? I was like, no, never really thought about it, but I'll give it a go. And
so what are you there, late 20s?
Yeah, I might have been 30 at that point. So
you obviously started playing footy. You wouldn't have seen any footy hardly in the Blue Mountains. You would have watched the Swans, I imagine, a bit here and there. But what got you to go and have a kick? Was your brother-in-law?
Yeah, a little bit. I'd been exposed a little bit to football late in high school. We had a teacher come to our high school that had played a bit of VFL for Collingwood as a PE teacher.
Who was that?
David Armstrong, his name was. Right. He didn't play a lot, but he sort of got us interested in the game, and we had a bit of a kick around at school and played a little bit of sort of fun footy in the lower mountains a couple of times, but cricket was sort of in the way for me. Followed the Swans, used to go and watch the Swans a little bit, sort of started to like the game then. When I first come to Adelaide early on playing cricket, I was working at Retrovision down on Port Road, the old Retrovision site, and a lot of the Centrals players through that early 2000 period were working out of the Retrovision warehouse. So I sort of became a bit of a Centrals fan. And
they were flying.
They were flying. So it was an easy sort of club to follow. So I found myself going to watch them a little bit. And
who were you working with?
Damien Hicks was working there, Big Radley Moeller, the ruckman in the early 2000s, Quinton Graham, some unique characters.
Very unique characters.
Adam Swatala. So there was some of those guys that sort of through that early period. And then some guys were sort of working in around there. Heath Hopwood and some of those guys were working as part of the organisation. So was sort of exposed a little bit to it there, and started to follow a little bit and started to play a little bit of local footy, obviously.
What did you like about footy, given it wasn't something that you'd grown up playing?
I loved the team aspect of it. I just was engrossed in the change room and the need to be – cricket's a very individualised sport. It's
a good point you make there because they, despite both being team sports, the dynamics are so different, aren't they?
So different, mate. It's a team sport, cricket, but you need to be successful individually for your team to be successful, and that's what it is. But football, you're relying on the bloke next to you and the bloke next to him, and you're relying on each other to be able to be successful. And I just love that part of it. And I was engrossed early in how do you get the best out of everyone to make sure your team's working really well. And so I enjoyed that part of it, and that probably engrossed me right away. And particularly when I started coaching, that certainly. And I fell in love with it instantly, to be honest.
So you're coaching the B grade?
Yep.
Playing as well? Playing coach?
Tried to. Didn't work.
So how'd you go with that?
I was still playing A grade, so I was coaching the B grade and still playing in the A grade, and I just found it really difficult to prepare, and I wasn't switched on with it. I wasn't probably doing what I needed to do, and I was just loving how the coaching side of it. It's interesting that the guy that's had the most impact on my coaching journey is Trevor Bayliss. I don't know if you know. So coached England, coached Sri Lanka, been an incredibly successful coach, and he was my club coach in New South Wales, and was back in the time when they still played Shield cricket. So he would be away playing a Shield game, Perth, Brisbane, wherever he was, and he would spend the time to make contact with me during the week and check on how I was going. And it was never about cricket. It was always about me as the person. And at the time, as a 19, 20-year-old, I used to think, this bloke's a sticky beak. But it wasn't until I started coaching, it was like, no, it's actually, he's not ahead of his time, but it was about the person and not about the player. And from that point, when I started coaching, it became that for me. It was about, I didn't have the football background, so I didn't have the X's and O's and the knowledge. So I had to make it about the person I was coaching and get to know them and understand them and try and work out what I needed to do to get the best out of them.
You said Trevor wasn't ahead of his time, but it sounds like he may have been.
Well, his success probably suggests.
Yeah, and obviously coach internationally because you have to know the people, don't you?
You do.
It's a vastly different time now to when we grew up.
It is. And that's probably been my one wood from a coaching perspective all the way along, and something that I even now I think is the most important aspect of it. And so from that point, I essentially my coaching philosophy has been coach people how I'd want my own children coached from that point on. And I try and do that and live that mantra every day from a coaching perspective.
So what'd you do? You gave up the footy playing?
Gave up playing, just concentrate coaching. Coached the reserves. We were an ordinary team. So that was an interesting challenge in itself. And then Eddie decided to move on the following year, and the club gave me the opportunity to coach the A-grade team the following year, which was great. So I was coaching the Salisbury Football Club 2 years into my coaching, or second year into my coaching journey. I was coaching mates and guys I'd sort of spent a lot of time with. So that was it was good for me to start with, just to test what I do. And
was it hard because you were so close to them though?
It was, but it also allowed me, because I had great relationships, it allowed me to challenge them a little bit, even though it's an amateur sport. They still wanted to win. So we had some success there, and we're pretty, over the 4-year period, I think we played in a couple of grand finals. We didn't win one, but we played in a couple of grand finals. So it was great fun. And so I did that for 3 or 4 years, and then
While were you doing that? What are you doing work-wise?
So we'd just started, for a long period of time, we'd worked in my wife's family's business, which was a road line marking company. They did all types of road line marking, and there was a bit of a family separation. And myself and a mate of mine went out for ourselves, and so we were just probably early stages of starting and developing our own business. And we did that up until 18 months ago, where coaching had sort of taken over for me, and the pressure was on my business partner. So we decided to sell out, but that was the start point of our business journey. So in the background, I had that going on, and but to be fair, like to be able to chase what I've been able to do over the last few years, the business allowed me to do that because it gave me the time to sort of put a bit of time into football. So that was the start point of that for us.
Well, it's amazing. So you're coaching Salisbury, and what was the next step after that?
I decided, I think after the 4th year, I thought if I'm going to make a go of this coaching, I've got to try and go somewhere else. And so I'd sort of given up the Salisbury job, and I'd went through a process with Salisbury North, who were playing Div 1 at the time, didn't get the job, which was fine. And then I'd put in an application at the Newry Football Club in the Barossa League, went through an interview process, got the job, and so 2014 I went and coached Newry in the Barossa
Tigers.
League. Yeah, the Tigers. So, which was great. I still consider Newry the place that sort of got me on the journey, to be honest. I was fortunate to have some really good players come to the footy club in Jay Nash and Henry Slattery, and some guys that had come out of the AFL system that were really good for me in my journey and understanding what I needed to be as a coach.
So had you made a decision around about that time? So what are you getting to, sort of mid-30s around then?
Yeah.
Did you make a decision that you wanted to work as a coach in a full-time professional capacity if you could?
I certainly had that ambition, but I was also aware that the pathway that I was on was probably not going to allow that to happen, because it just didn't. It wasn't the norm for those opportunities to present themselves. So, but I certainly had that back in my mind, and I went about my coaching in that manner. Going back to Henry, he probably had a real influence on me in 2015. He came to the club. He was 1 year out of an AFL system. He'd played 100 AFL games, and my way of coaching was to provide feedback and to the players pretty quickly after games. So I'd used to spend my Sunday mornings making phone calls or flicking messages or whatever it was to all the players. And I think we're about 3 weeks into the season, and I hadn't done it to Henry at that point because I actually didn't know what I was going to tell him. He's a guy that's played 100 AFL games. He's 29 years old. He was the best player in the competition. And I remember him ringing me and he said, the exact words were, Reeva, why the F don't you ring me and give me feedback on Sunday morning like you do every other player? And I was like,
Because they're all talking, obviously.
yeah. And I was like, to be honest, Henry, I actually don't know what I'm going to say to you. And he said, no, that's bullshit. Just be honest. Just tell me the truth. If you think I played well, tell me. If you think I didn't do something well, tell me. And from that point on, he was the guy that sought more feedback than anyone. And it just taught me a valuable lesson that didn't matter who you were, where you'd come from, what you were doing. Everyone needs that reinforcement and that feedback and that guidance.
You said that you didn't know what you would say to him if you were going to call him. Why didn't you think you know? Because obviously you're a fantastic communicator. That's definitely clearly one of your strengths that so many people talk about across your journey. What was it? Was it self-doubt? Why wouldn't you contact him?
I think it was self-doubt, and I think it was like because I didn't have that football knowledge. I was still trying to develop the understanding of the game and what was important, and so I probably subconsciously I didn't want to look silly if I was giving him football feedback and he was like, what are you talking about type scenario. So that was probably a little bit of it, but certainly was a lesson for me that just be honest, It's
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
One, that you're able to recognise that and then put it into place, but it actually taught you something that has become so valuable.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the way along. There's been little moments that have been critical to understanding what's important for me as a coach. And it's not X's and O's. I mean, there's certainly an element of that, but it's the relationships and it's just understanding everyone and understanding that everyone's different and you treat everyone fair but not the same because you can't, and that's been a great lesson. And Henry, and I still speak to Henry often now and still seek feedback from him at different times. And, he's certainly been a big player in my journey.
Comes from a great family too, Henry. With mum, dad and all the brothers and everyone. They're just a really solid family.
Very, very much so.
Oh, that's great. What a great learning experience for you.
Yeah.
And I love the fact too that you weren't too proud or anything to not take it on. You've gone, right, how can I use this?
Yeah.
And that sounds like, as you're describing, what you've done all the way along.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, based on my journey, that was something I had to do. And I mean, even little bits. To that point in my journey in my early coaching, I used to go and just sit in the grandstand at Elizabeth Oval and watch Central's train and listen to what Roy would be saying to players. And, the Gowans boys were there, the early two, and just watching how they went about it. And just middle of the day, we'd be out doing a line marking job and I knew the Crows would be training and I'd flick past West Lakes there and just watch them train and just see if I could pick up anything or listen to what the coaches were saying and just try and find different when I was really passionate about what I was doing and just try and find ways to get better.
You sound like a sponge.
Yeah, we have to be, mate.
Yeah.
Even now, like where I am right now, like the last couple of weeks with the new coaching group, I've just sat back and just tried to take as much information in as I can.
Listening to Roy Laird at training would have been interesting. I love Roy Laird. What he was able to achieve was absolutely fantastic. What did you learn from listening to him?
He's a football genius, and he probably wouldn't like himself being described as that. But I ended up at Centrals because of Roy. Like he reached out to me and got me to Centrals, and the opportunity I had to spend with him working in the senior program was amazing. I just remember the biggest thing for me with Roy. I remember sitting in the coach's box coaching the reserves there in 2018, and he would sit in the back of the coach's box and he would just be saying things about the game, and you're thinking, how the hell did he see that? I'm not seeing that. And he was so good at seeing the game and recognising the patterns of the game. And then I remember sitting in the back of the box when he was coaching in the league games, and sometimes I felt like he got a bit concerned about rotations and other things, and he probably didn't focus on the game as much as he would if he was sitting back. So I always think he would have been an amazing senior assistant at AFL levels because of his ability to be able to see the game. Like he saw the game still to this day better than anyone I ever saw. And even, to be honest, mate, like my time at Glenelg, a lot of the stuff we did from a game plan scenario was stuff I learnt from Roy. Like the stuff he was doing in the early 2000s and even those couple of years I spent there from a defensive mechanism and from even an offensive part of the game. Like I'm in an AFL system now and I'm hearing him talk about stuff. I'm thinking, Roy was talking about this many years ago, in which he was a genius.
I think what was so fantastic about Roy Laird was the longevity of how they stayed up there. And that takes enormous reinvention, but I imagine it takes enormous adaptation and change of himself
Yeah.
throughout that.
Without doubt, yeah. And then probably in the end, that maybe been the end for him, was that he probably reached a point where he didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe the younger generation weren't taking on those messages as much as they used to. But yeah, no, he had incredible impact on my journey.
I could imagine that some of perhaps the new age ideas from kids and the need for them would have frustrated Roy.
Big time. Absolutely. I reckon if you have conversations with Roy now, it still does.
No doubt about that. All right, so from Newry, because you're in the heartland of Central District area there, what from Newry to the Dogs, was it?
Yeah, so Roy reached out and asked me if I was interested in coaching the under-18s team, and I was a bit reluctant at the time because I remember having a conversation with Roy that if I'm going to come and be part of a program, I'm coming because I want to coach league football.
Yep.
And I just didn't.
You said that right from the start?
Yeah, I did. I had that conversation with Roy, and I just didn't see that there was going to be a pathway to do that. So, and I was loving my time at Newry. It was a great club. We'd just won a premiership, and I felt like that was the best thing to do. But Roy was persistent that I should do this, and if you don't know unless you come and try. So I did. I went and coached the under-18s there for a couple of years, and that was a challenge. But it was a great challenge for me because you're working with talented kids that want to do the work, but are also an incredibly selfish environment because they're all worried about getting drafted or getting into the senior program. And so that was great for me to be able to go and work with those types of players and kids and try and just work out what was important.
So from the time at Central, how did things move? Because obviously there's NT, North Adelaide and all these things. So where did the path move to?
I coached a year of the reserves at Centrals in 2018, and I think we played in a final series, and we played at Nord Oval against, I can't remember, maybe Western. The Monday after that game, I got a phone call from a guy called Andrew Hodges at NT Thunder, who'd been down scouting players but had come out and listened to quarter time and three-quarter time address and really liked how I went about it and asked if I was interested. I didn't even know about the NT Thunder program, to be honest, and he asked if I was interested to come up and go through an interview process for their coaching job, and it was like, okay, like I'd never really thought about it. So suddenly found myself on a plane up to Darwin and going through an interview process, got back to Adelaide and phone call telling me that I'd got the job. So then the decision was sort of, do we take the whole family? My eldest lad was going into year 12, so that was going to be really difficult. And through Linda and the older boys' encouragement, I took the job in NT. I went up there by myself, which was really difficult. I was in Darwin while Josh was going through year 12 and Linda was here dealing with a business with my business partner and so much going on. But their unwavering support and encouragement for me to do that was huge. I went up to Darwin, worked in the NT Thunder program, which was an incredible concept, but it had reached its end point. The idea was that young Indigenous boys could stay in their own environments and come in and play state league football, and it was a great idea. Problem was the NEFL competition had got incredibly strong with the AFL reserves teams, Brisbane and Gold Coast and Sydney, etc., and the clubs around that had got incredibly strong as well. So while there was incredible talent up there, they just weren't able to compete with those types of teams. But what it allowed me to do was really test my own coaching philosophies in a full-time environment. And while we didn't have the success on the field, I felt like I had great impact on a lot of players that had genuine challenges in their life. So when that sort of program ended at the end of 2019, I walked away with it understanding that no matter where my journey takes me, I'm not going to have a harder coaching job than that or bigger challenges than that provided. So I'd be okay.
As you're describing this, your grounding in all these different areas is pretty phenomenal. Like it's so wide even to that point.
Yeah.
Which is probably a lot more diversity than many people that have been involved in football their whole life haven't had.
Yeah. When I look back, if I hadn't taken the opportunity at Centrals or if I hadn't taken the opportunity at NT Thunder, what I'm doing now probably would never have happened.
Yep.
So there was important steps to take. While they were challenging steps to take, they were incredibly important for me.
So NT, where'd you go to there?
Came back to Adelaide, was unsure what I was going to do, had some conversations with a few clubs, and then Jacob Surgeon reached out. He'd just been awarded the North Adelaide job, and I don't know how
Kari had gone.
Yeah. So I don't really know how that I got a feeling Jed Anderson, who played for Carlton, and North Adelaide, who had been a part of our NT Thunder program, had reached out to North Adelaide and suggested that they should make contact with me. So I love Jed for that. Like I still speak to him regularly and I thank him for those because all these people play a part in your journey. So I went to North Adelaide. I coached the reserves there under Serge and worked closely with Serge from 2020 onwards. So obviously started at North, COVID. So my first memories of North are working with 6 players at one end of the ground and wiping the footies clean at the end of training sessions. And so that was a really challenging year for everyone. But going into a new club, we were really fortunate in Adelaide that we were able to play footy that year. And 3 years at North, we had some success without having the ultimate. We've had 2 league grand finals and 2 reserves grand finals and lost all of them. But the experiences of that were great for me. And the end of 22, there was a few sort of options there. I sort of had a few conversations with West Adelaide.
Yep. About the senior role?
Yeah. But I sort of sat back and I probably wasn't ready for that challenge, I don't reckon. And it was probably a decision that I made with a few important people in my life that wasn't for me. But then regret after that was maybe that was my only opportunity to coach at that level. But hindsight was a good decision.
What other things did you knock back along the way, or did you perhaps have some interest from?
Not really any. I mean, there was a little bit. I do know Stuart Dew pretty well, so I'd had some conversations with him over the journey about potential roles in the AFL system. But I'd never really had huge opportunities. That was probably the first real opportunity that was sort of presented to me, and I went through a bit of a process with West Adelaide. It just didn't feel right at the time, and hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because a few months later, Glenelg were looking for a coach, and right place, right time.
Now that happened really quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just take us through how that all occurred.
Well, I was sort of entrenched in pre-season, the start of pre-season with North, and then all of a sudden Glenelg had moved their coach on, and Phil Smythe's a real mentor for me, and I'd sort of been spending a lot of time with him, and I sort of suggested to him that I should put an application in, and he encouraged me. So I put an application in, went through a process sort of mid-December of 22, which is really late to be finding a coach.
Absolutely. Parallels with Roy Laird, how Roy got the job at Central when Alistair Clarkson left. It was done really late, and obviously the success he had. So similar sort of parallels with someone who'd mentored you and worked with you?
A little bit, yeah. And so I went through the process. I remember getting the phone call from CEO Justin Scripps. It was the 23rd of December. Linda and I and the kids were packing up the car to head over to Mum and Dad's house in New South Wales for Christmas, and got the phone call and to tell me I had the job. And I remember the first part of the journey from here to Mildura, Adelaide to Mildura, I spent the whole time on the phone just ringing players, just introducing myself, and
straight away.
And I realistically spent the whole 2 weeks in New South Wales on the phone introducing myself to all the players.
Geez, Linda and the kids have put up with a bit, haven't they?
They have put up with a lot, mate, over the journey, to be fair. So I still thank her every day for it.
Again, though, you're working on connection, like you were at Newry on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, you had to. Yeah.
Was that really one of the key things, the key philosophy is that connection?
Yep, it has to be, mate. You have to understand your players. They have to trust you, right? And if you're going to give them feedback, good or bad, they've got to trust you. Otherwise, they're not listening. So it was critical, and I'd had conversations with pretty much every player on the list by the time I'd met them face to face. And then got back from Sydney. I started the 3rd of January, got back, and I spent the first week sitting outside on the tables at the Glenelg Footy Club there, player after player coming in. I would have drunk copious amounts of coffee, but just needed to spend time with every player and get to know them.
Geez, when you think of, traditionally over the years, some blokes would hardly have even spoken to their coach during a season if they were perhaps on the periphery or, in and out of the team.
Yeah.
Yet you've spoken to all of them before you've essentially met them.
Yeah, I had. Yeah. They needed to trust me. Probably the first guy I met up with face to face was Matty Snook, and you know Matty pretty well, and he's a pretty quiet guy that keeps a lot of things, but he's incredibly influential in that footy club. And I remember going and we caught up at a coffee shop and we sat down, and I remember I said to him, "What do you need most from me? What do you need from me, mate?" And he just said, "I need you to trust me." And it was such an important line. Just trust me that I might not be able to do what everyone else can do, but I'll be ready to go every Saturday for you. So just trust me in that. And I was like, okay, if you do that, I need you to do this for me. So that was the start point, and then it was just incredibly important that I did that and had that conversation with every player from that point on, face to face. And history shows that we must have done it okay, because we went on to win a premiership, which was amazing.
First year.
Yeah.
remarkable, and it was a good flag to win, obviously, in your first season. How did you go about when you started coaching Glenelg at the start? Because it'd been a pretty rapid rise. It's taken a long time, but in terms of the process you've got there, you've done it reasonably quickly in the scheme of things. Did you feel like you belonged in that role? Because you're coaching a senior team and a bloody good senior team, probably the best team outside of the AFL. Straight away, did you feel I belong here?
I did. Once I started having the conversations with the players, while I had the doubt in if I was good enough, and probably today I still have those doubts at different times, but I went in and just said, we've got a plan, this is what we're doing, and we're going to stick to it. And I just felt like if I'm going to make a go of this, I just had to back myself in and just be really confident in what I do and how I do it and the relationships that I was able to form. And I think they were probably crying out for that, to be honest. I think while it was an incredibly talented group, they were broken. There were some issues that we had to identify pretty early and get on top of, and we were able to do that. But once we did, and we just drove the connection of the group and put a plan in place, and they were all in on what the plan was, it just sort of one thing snowballed to the next. And we certainly didn't start well that year. We got belted round one against Sturt, so I'm sure the drums were beating about who's this guy and what's he doing, etc. But I remember having I remember the first review meeting after that loss to Sturt, and there was a one clip that identified some horrible actions from a number of our senior guys, and I showed it, and I was prepared to call them all out if I needed to, and I thought that was important. I didn't need to, because one of our senior players stood up and said, rewind that clip, that's bullshit, let's go back. And they just, for 15 minutes, they just called each other out, all of them. And I reckon a lot of our younger blokes sat back and went, actually, this is important because this hasn't happened for a long time.
They've got to trust you, though, to be able to do that. And it's your first game, essentially. So I can imagine the groundwork you did on the phone going back home that time probably allowed that.
Yep, without question, without question. And it was an important meeting, and they did. We came out of that, we trained really well, and we won the next 11 in a row and set us on our way.
As you're going along that path, and obviously they'd won the flag in 2019 with Stoney and done a really good job, so you knew you had a quality outfit.
Yep.
Did you dare to dream during that 11-game run?
Oh, I certainly did. I mean, and over the time, and that was probably the one thing we go on to 2024 probably a bit later on, but the one thing they challenged me about it, sometimes I spent time looking ahead, and the players started to challenge me on that. And certainly 23, I feel like I was looking ahead, but I didn't ever talk about it to the players for sure. And I know that they were as well, because they were a proud group that wanted to win. But we had some challenges late in the year. We had another one of those, I think round 17, we got touched up by Woodville, and it was a horrible performance. And again, there was a few blokes, we were going to finish first or second on the table anyway. There's a few blokes probably looking after themselves, and a couple of our senior guys, and we called them out in a review meeting, and then we got going again from there. And from that point on, I was really confident in what we were capable of doing.
Yep. That grand final that you got to in 23, the first quarter, was outstanding.
It was, and all of our senior blokes were outstanding, and Matty Snook and Cole Gerloff, Max, all the guys that you expect to stand up stood up, and we never felt in danger in that game. I know I got a bit tired or late in the game, but felt like we had it in control all day.
I can imagine, given what you've talked about and your work ethic is so phenomenal, you must have been so meticulous in your plans for every game, but particularly the grand final week and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, 23, we just trusted in what we did. We'd built great trust in what worked for us, and I became really conscious of not over-analysing and or giving too much information. That was probably a bit of a learn for me through 23, that they were a mature group that we just allowed to keep playing, and certainly through the finals we gave them a little bit, but we sort of backed in what they did more than anything.
Glenelg Footy Club, I think they came in 1921. There's a flag in 1934, 73, 85 and 86. So they've been starved of success. And there's always that feeling around the Glenelg Footy Club. I think obviously Stoney helped them 29 to get that win. And then the last 3 years, played in 3 grand finals. You must have known in the Glenelg Footy Club that there was this overall sort of feeling of making finals and grand finals so many times and not getting there across the line? It almost felt like it was a part of the Glenelg Football Club culture.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Did you?
Oh, absolutely, and it's fair. But probably for this playing group, most of them, all they'd known was finals or grand finals. So it probably didn't resonate too much with them.
Yep.
Like it was certainly in the background and the older guys. But
Did you notice it around the club, supporters,
certainly
and the feel of that?
Yeah, and particularly going into 23, there was a lot of that. Oh, we've been here before, and so just to win it, and I think to win it against Sturt too was obviously they'd been a club that they'd had a lot of heartache against over the journey, so that was important. And then again in 24 to beat Nord as well was important for the club psyche. To be fair,
So you win the flag in 23. Pretty amazing, given, like we said, what we've talked about so far. Did you then decide, right, I can keep moving forward and up, or do you decide, obviously you're going to stay at Glenelg and get some more success, but did that give you a bit of a leg up in your mind that there might be more opportunities at higher levels at another time?
Oh, I think I did, for sure. I mean, I wasn't trying to think about it too much, but I certainly felt like there might be opportunities present at some point, but they needed to be the right ones as well. I was pretty adamant that if I was going to keep progressing, I want to sort of go down a path of finding the right opportunity. 24, we sort of progressed into we lost some players out of 24, which was a challenge. We had a few senior guys move on, and particularly in the key defence area, so we had to try and find some replacements, and we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. We brought Chris Curran back in with some experience. Will Gould come back from Sydney. A young Oscar Adams came back from St Kilda. So we had some guys come out of the AFL system that were really important to it. But we had some challenges. One, from a complacency standpoint early on, I think our players were a little bit complacent. I mean, they certainly worked hard, but there was I certainly felt through the first half of the year that we were going through the motions a little bit. But in and around that, we also had some injury challenges with some key personnel. Cam McGree injured and not having a ruckman that could sort of fill that void, and then Lockie Hosey missing the majority of the year. So we had some challenges from a personnel standpoint, but I always felt like if we could get ourselves to the final and get there half healthy, that our brand stood up and we could beat anyone, and certainly played out in that manner.
That grand finals, I think 5 points or so in the end, it was tight. Liam McBean kicked 7 straight. He was just unbelievable. You're going to look after the forwards at Port Adelaide. You know what it takes to have forwards going well, don't you? Because I think Lockie Hosey kicked 6 in the 23 one, wins the Jack Oatey medal, and Liam does the same thing in 2024.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. It just blows my mind that he hasn't played more AFL football, to be honest. He's just an incredible person, first and foremost, and leader, but just he's still the best key forward outside of the AFL in Australia.
Yeah.
And that day, he had some pressure going on him going into that grand final. He hadn't hit the scoreboard or contributed in the previous 2 grand finals, even though they'd won them in 19 and 23. He hadn't been a contributor too much. So I certainly know he knew that. We didn't speak about it at all, but he was unstoppable that day. And I think your call of his last goal will go down in history as well. So yeah, he was certainly the difference.
When you look at that, you just think he couldn't afford to miss any of them because it was so tight.
Yeah, he misses one, we lose.
When your key forward kicks 7 goals in the grand final, you've probably won by 8 or 9 goals. Not in that situation. Every kick was vital.
I remember the one late in the third quarter to the southern end, right from sort of on the 50-metre arc, like the set shot. Like no one had kicked a goal from that point all day, and he went back and nailed it and was like, gee whiz, this guy's amazing. And his last quarter was phenomenal.
So back-to-back flags. I think what if Glenelg had 5 premiership coaches? Bruce McGregor, Neil Curley, Graham Corns, Mark Stone, and Darren Reeves twice.
I know. It's quite amazing. I used to walk into the change rooms and the honour board was up there and see your name on there twice. It's still, it's quite mind-boggling.
So you've 2 years at the top level, at state level nationally. You've won 2 flags. Did bites start coming then from a higher level?
Oh, not really. I know there was a bit of speculation in the media, but there wasn't. There was a few sort of inquiries, but nothing concrete. And we'd sort of, to be honest, mate, we'd made the decision as a family that at this point in time we weren't going to move into state either. Not that people would have known that, but that sort of had made my decision pretty easy. So, but there wasn't a lot. I I didn't really expect it. I still felt like I'd 2 years into it. I probably need to prove myself a little bit more, and it wasn't something I was chasing either. So I was happy at Glenelg and loved working with it. Yeah, loved doing what I was doing.
Full-time coach.
Yeah, at a great football club.
And again, it's taken a long time to get there, but it is a rapid rise in terms of the steps you're able to jump from coaching Salisbury's Bees.
Yeah, it's still hard to sort of comprehend. The last couple of weeks, I'm certainly reflecting back a little bit around that and where I am right now. But but equally, there's been a lot of hard work too. Right.
So 2025 this year, another grand final. So nice record, 3 years in that, and a tougher game obviously. And Sturt were a great team all year, and they fixed up what they'd struggled with previously. So,
mate, credit to them. They were hands down the best team, and it's amazing though. Like from the moment the game ended, you're disappointed to lose. I haven't had any regrets on what we did this year, or real disappointment. More pride in what we're able to do this year. I mean, we got beaten by an incredibly good football team that were at the top of their game. They beat us 4 times over the year, so they were far and away better than us. But I think for us, we lost some blokes in the mid-season draft to lose 2 key defenders, and at the same time, Paddy Parnell, Rexy's shoulder. So 3 key elements of our defensive group were gone, and it sort of changed the whole dynamic of our game style. Like our game was built around being able to defend the ground really well and then be able to transition from half-back and score, and our numbers still tell us that from the end of that year that we still were the best team in the comp at doing that. But losing our aerial prowess behind the ball sort of changed how we played. We lost a bit of confidence in how we moved the ball, and the pride I had in our group in 1, getting to the grand final, and 2, giving ourselves a chance is enormous, and that was important.
We played 3 grand finals in a row.
Yeah.
And you were developing your football knowledge watching Central play in those flags 12 grand finals in a row. So, to get to grand finals, phenomenal. To win a grand final, amazing. To get to 2, to win 2, then you get with it. It's a really remarkable achievement, something that I'm sure you're no doubt very, very proud of, as you should be.
Yeah, and credit to the players. They're the ones that do the work, and it's still hard to comprehend that we played in 3 grand finals, but incredible pride in what I've been able to do in my journey, but also what that playing group was able to do.
So you ink a new contract to stay at Glenelg. Was that got announced? Was it the week of the grand final week?
Week leading into the prelim, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, which had been sort of negotiated a fair while before that, just hadn't been announced. And probably hindsight, it wasn't ideal that came out at that point.
Had there been interest though? There started to through this year, wasn't there?
I had a couple of conversations with Josh sort of mid-year, Josh and Chris Davies, but they were working out what they wanted, where they needed to go, and who fitted what they needed, and there was nothing really concrete there, or no real offer or suggestion that was going to be an offer at that point, and that really didn't happen until the Monday after the grand final when Josh made contact, and that happened really quickly as well.
And so it just quickly, you've signed a new deal, and no doubt all the deals have clauses that if you want to go to a higher level. So that was there. How quickly did it happen then?
Pretty quickly. I caught up with Josh and Matty Richardson on the Friday morning, the week after the grand final, and they put a presentation to me about a role, a stoppage contest role, working with the midfield, and what it would look like. It was a 3-year contract that was on my desk by that afternoon, and so I had a couple of days to sort of sit and think about it. Had some discussion. At that point, no one knew apart from Phil as a mentor and my wife.
This is Phil Smythe.
Yeah, Phil Smythe is my mentor, my wife. There were only 2 that I'd sort of discussed it with. Even my kids didn't even know at that point. I did have the discussion over that weekend, the AFL Grand Final weekend. I remember sitting in our man cave out the back with the older boys watching the grand final, having a few beers, and sort of discussed it with them. And it was actually my 20-year-old Cohen. He said to me, "Dad, if one of the Glenelg players come to you and said, I've got a 2-year opportunity to go to the AFL system, what are you saying to him?" "I'm telling him to go." He said, "Well, don't be a hypocrite. You've got to do the same thing." And it was such a great piece of advice to actually don't preach something and then not do it yourself. So
you've taught him well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Both you and
maybe it was Linda, to be honest. But yeah, it was great advice, and so I text Josh Saturday night after the AFL Grand Final, said, "Mate, I'm in," and his response was pretty positive. So, yeah, sort of happened pretty quickly. I got to Glenelg on Monday morning and had all those tough conversations with Paul Sandico and someone who I've got incredible respect and love for and the rest of the footy club. And then I had to have the tough discussion with the players on that night.
Have you had a chance to, you said you're reflecting a little bit at the moment and everything, so you obviously signed a deal with Port, so you signed a 3-year deal, which is fantastic. Have you sat back and reflected on that journey? I know we're doing that now, but just in the last couple of weeks, like
I certainly have. Like it's
to be honest, it's a crazy story, but such a great story.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've been back as a coaching group the last 2 weeks. So I think every day I walk in there and I sort of pinch myself and think, gee whiz, what am I doing? What am I doing here, to be honest? And I'm in my way, mate. I've been able to sort of sit down and catch up and have a coffee with a lot of the forward line players over the last couple of weeks, and I thoroughly enjoy doing that and getting to know those guys. And that's probably the moment where I do pinch myself when I'm sitting down with Sam Palpepper for a coffee yesterday and having a conversation with him, and they're the moments where I really do. What
you've done with all your other clubs, no doubt you've probably reached out to all the players, have you, at some point?
I have, yeah. Well, I've met most of them, but I mean, since my role changed a couple of days after that into the forward line role.
So quickly, you signed this deal with stoppage and so forth.
Yep.
And then how quickly did things escalate to
Probably
the forward line?
The following Wednesday, Josh rang me and said, I've got something for you. And I'm thinking that we've had a change. Tyson Goldsack's going to head over to Collingwood, and we think that you're a perfect fit to take on the forward line. And I was like, okay. He said, what do you think about that? And I said, mate, I'm fine, whatever you want me to do. And to be honest, I probably felt more comfortable doing that. Like the group I'd spent a lot of time working with was our forward line. Obviously, we had some big characters in our forward line at Glenelg.
Well, obviously, Lockie Hosey. You've also got Liam McBean, your captain there, Lukey Reynolds, and some other younger players you were moving through there, Riley Holder and so forth. So you dealt with the best forward line in the competition for a while. So it's almost hand in glove scenario.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, those guys have taught me so much. You know, like, again, they're young men that are just trying to find their way. You know, they're great players at our level, but even Liam, at 31 years old and the best player in the competition, he still needs reinforcement at different times. So I think I've got some good grounding into the role now.
Already Stewie Jews come down, and you said you knew Stewie, of course. And I know straight away, as soon as he was back, you guys were walking around 6:30 in the morning having chats, weren't you?
Yeah, we were. He was down for the first week last week, and he sent me a message and said, meet me at the beach at Largs and we'll have a walk. So 6 o'clock that.
Well, he triggered that out.
He triggered that
early.
yeah,
I thought it would have to been you to get
No,
Stewie
he
out.
triggered it. He said, meet me at the beach. So the first day of work, we went for a stroll along the beach at Largs, had a coffee, and then headed into the club together, which was great. It was great for me to be able to do that and just break the ice a little bit.
What else have you done to start with? Obviously, you would have met a lot of the players and talked to them and discussed things with Josh and Stewie, but what else have you done? Because no doubt you'd be meticulous in your planning and your work ethic.
Yeah, I mean, we had a week. We've got a new sort of leadership consultant, Nick Hayward, who came in and spent the week with us last week as a coaching. It's a whole new coaching group, so there's a lot of new faces there. So we got an opportunity to spend a lot of time together and just get to know each other. But outside of that, mate, I've just been spending a lot of time watching vision of games last year and vision of players and just trying to get my head around it. And Josh has been great. And just here's what we want to do. You guys go and make it better for us. So that's been a little bit. So just working with the other coaches, and it's been good. It's been a good 2 weeks. Certainly, there's a few nerves there as we head into Monday with the players back in. That's for sure.
Expectation wise of forward line and that, you obviously will make some changes, and I don't expect you to declare all those, but already there's been talk perhaps of Todd Marshall publicly going down back.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of suggestion that Todd will do the pre-season down back and explore some other opportunities for him. We'll see how that plays out for sure. There's still a really young, capable forward line with Mitch Georgiadis and Jack Whitlock and Jack Lukosius obviously missed last year, and Ollie Lord. So there's still some genuine talent down there, and Darcy Byrne-Jones and Corey Durden comes into the footy club, and Joe Berry, Joe Richards. There's a number of young guys down in that forward line that are incredibly exciting.
Speaking of exciting, how excited are you about this opportunity?
Oh, yeah, incredibly excited. It's you can't wipe the smile off my face, to be honest. I think my wife said to me a couple of times now, like, can we just talk about something else? because a lot of I think we did this today, we did this. And so that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me to make sure I get home and switch off. That's going to be a challenge for sure.
Have you thought about the first game of the year and what it's going to be like?
I have, yeah. I mean, obviously been able to experience some SANFL grand finals the last couple of years, and which is great, but it's this next level. I'm still trying to get my head around the resources that we have, to be honest, at Port. You know, that's the other thing, you know, because at SANFL level, you're sort of doing a lot of it yourself. So that we've got an analyst in our forward line that just wants to do everything for me, and and he's, I can do this for you. And so Kraz has been great so far. So yeah, just trying to get my head around that. But yeah, it's exciting.
I want to ask you about a couple of people that I know have been really important to you. Tell us about Phil Smythe and his role when you obviously met him at North Adelaide.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Phil come to North, and at the start I thought he was just there working with Serge, but he just reached out to me one day and said, let's grab a coffee. So we grabbed a coffee, and it sort of built from there. I started to catch up with him weekly, and I mean, he's just experienced it all as a player, as a coach, as an administrator, as a business owner, and now working closely with AFL coaches and particularly Chris Fagan over the last couple of years. He's just got an ability to be able to challenge me in different ways. Like we never talk about the game. We just talk about how I'm dealing with people, and he might sit back and see something. He's worked closely with us at Glenelg this year, and he would sit back and watch team meetings and reviews, and then he would challenge me on how I went about it or what I spoke about, or maybe you could do it this way. And he never says you need to do it this way. He just gives you suggestions, or he challenges you around your own thoughts. And he's just become more than a mentor. He's just a mate now, and someone that I talk to regularly and catch up with regularly, and just an incredible support network.
As you were talking about transferring what you'd learnt in skills, and even like Trevor Bayliss as coach with your cricket, Phil clearly as a basketball man, although he's a pretty handy footballer as a young bloke.
Yeah, he's modest about that though.
Yeah, it's looks like it's just transferring those human interaction, communication, connection skills that are so important.
Yeah, and I think for his experience, like he's dealing with talk about egos in sport. There's probably no bigger egos in basketball, and the Americans coming out playing basketball. So he's had to manoeuvre his way through all that. So his experiences in that space is next level. So you can see why he's had success in the role he's doing now with Chris and other AFL coaches, and continues to do.
I know you have spent a little bit of time with Chris Fagan as well, with Smythe. Tell us what that's like, because he's obviously had such fantastic experience from heartache in terms of his coaching to, winning the past couple of flags. What have you learned from him?
Yeah, that. And through Phil, I got the opportunity to go and spend a bit of time up in Brisbane with Chris, and stayed with Chris at Chris's house, started 24. And just, you talk about, or you hear the stories about Chris going on midnight walks, and I got to experience that a couple of times through the week. Come on, we're going for a walk. So 11 o'clock at night, we're trudging around the river at Brisbane up there, and he was just so open with his knowledge and his experiences and his journey, and then to watch him, to go and then watch him with his relationships with the players and the respect that these players had for him and his coaches and his staff, and the way he ran his program was just quite eye-opening, to be honest. And you can see why they've been so successful. Obviously, that was the start of their journey, and it was interesting. We sort of followed the same path a little bit through 24. So we had some text conversation over the course of the year. They were battling at times and had some injuries, a bit like us, and I think they finished sort of mid-table in the 8, and we finished 4th that year. So there were so many similarities. They had to win week after week and come from behind, and so did we. So it was great to sort of touch base afterwards.
So they've played in the last 3 AFL Grand Finals. You've played in the last 3 SANFL Grand Finals, and Phil Smythe's been waving his magic wand over
everywhere,
both of you.
Yeah, yep. And he's humble, Phil. He won't put himself out there around that. But I know if you talk to Chris, and certainly for me, he's been critical. I know even for Glenelg, like his ability to be able to just work with our leaders and work with football people and everyone, he just has time for everyone.
It's a fantastic story. I love it. I've got hairs on the back of my neck at the moment listening because of what you've been able to do. For anyone out there right now that is perhaps looking at a change or creating some goals and trying to follow them through, what you've been able to do meticulously with all of those steps and a lot of nice sliding door moments where it sounds like you made the right call, what's your advice to someone that wanted to do something differently?
Just don't give up on it. Find a way. There's always different ways of getting to where you want to go, and I think that's been for me. And just be prepared to take that risk. Be prepared to to put yourself out of your comfort zone and go and challenge yourself in a role that you maybe not sure on, but it might be the right role. And if it's not, that's okay. And I'm certainly had those at different times as well. But I mean, for me, it's been my journey, so I've never really thought anything more about it. But I think hopefully it just opens up some thoughts in people that, you know what, I'm capable, you know, because I'm certain and I know that there's some amazing coaches out there that, you know, that are coaching at amateur level or in whatever sport it is that have got the capabilities to do something great, but maybe just don't have the thought in their mind that there's opportunities, but there is. And I think in Australia you're seeing more and more of it, that you don't have to have played at the highest level to be successful as a coach, you know.
Point.
So I'm hoping that, you know, my journey's not finished. I still feel like I've got a lot more to achieve. I didn't feel like I'd ever been this point, but certainly not finished. I'm going to keep chasing whatever that is and wherever that takes me. But I hope that others will see it and jump on board as well.
I can imagine now you're probably not going to hesitate to make a phone call and give some feedback to anyone at Port Adelaide, no matter how good and how big they are.
No, absolutely. I've learnt my lesson. Henry was great in that lesson for me. But again, like, I think the biggest thing for me after catching up with some of these guys, I mean, they're just young men that are trying to find their way. And while they're elite at what they do and they get to work every day at their craft, they're still just young men that have got the same doubts and the same vulnerabilities, and they need the same, or they all need different things. But just understanding that that's the case and being a great support network for them.
I think there's a lot of stories left to be written in your book, no doubt. You got a significant birthday coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. So it is, yeah. I turn 50 in a couple of weeks' time, so I certainly don't feel 50. I might look
You don't look 50.
Well,
no,
I appreciate that, but I certainly don't feel it. It's only a number, isn't it?
It's only a number.
Only a number.
Yeah.
So,
Mate, happy birthday.
thank you.
And I really, really appreciate you telling your story, because people need to hear this story, because it is just fantastic. If you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. And like I said, I think there's a lot more to come, mate. So thank you so much.
Mate, thanks for having me. And thank you for your support over the journey as well, mate. Over the last few years, you've been a great support network and someone that's promoted me. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
I'm looking forward to a huge year next year, mate. I'm going to watch you in action very closely.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Good on you, Reeva. Well, thanks so much for listening. And if you love what you've heard, you can subscribe to the Soda Room podcast. You can write a review if you like, and share the show with your friends. And just before we go, a big, big thank you to the team at Wayville Hyundai. The new Santa Fe is ready to go. Make sure you go and give it a look. It's the winner of the Drive Car of the Year for 2025. It's got this great, bold look on the outside, beautifully finished interior, plenty of space with 7 seats for the whole family. And with Black Friday on, Wayville Hyundai is offering 7 years servicing and 7 years warranty on all new Santa Fe's. How good is that? So go and visit the team at Wayville Hyundai. It's opposite the showgrounds in Adelaide, driven by Australian Motors. T's and C's apply.